All right, guys, I saw this video and I thought that we'd talk about it because I absolutely love Subway, dude. I can't help it. So let's talk about it.
Subway is bringing back the $5 footlong.
It's about time,
but
dude.
as the $6.99 footlong. Doesn't quite have the same ring to it. And in a time when everyone's favorite fast foods are skyrocketing in prices, Subway, who always prided themselves on their
Bro, fast food has become so ridiculously expensive. There for a minute, the groceries were so expensive that the fast food was like a pretty good deal. And then the fast food prices slowly went to match the food prices in the grocery store. And now it's just all completely a crapshoot. Like, I know that you can eat for cheap. I'm aware that that's possible, that you can still budget and you can, spend $100 a week and you can feed yourself and blah, blah, blah. All you got to do is buy half a cow and all this stuff. I get it, dude. I really do. But for the average person who has a specific way of eating that is sort of based around convenience because their life is super hectic and they don't spend all of their time trying to do all of that, like, this is a difficult thing to make your food budget work for you, especially nowadays. Things have tripled in price in a lot of cases, and it's absolutely nuts out there. I mean, I remember in 2019, I could budget for like $25 a week to eat, and that was completely fine. And dude, it's like $125 a week now to eat.
Value being the latest domino to fall is a tough pill to swallow for customers. What gives with the price hike? Well, if you're currently in the comments typing inflation or corporate greed, you're wrong. Subway is in trouble, and it's all because
of the $5 footlong. I have been saying this for years, and I will continue to say it, that because they advertise so unbelievably heavily the concept of the $5 footlong, that nobody will ever feel like it's worth the price of paying anything more than that. And in some circumstances, Subway sandwiches are now $15, and I don't think they're worth $15. But I do love Subway. Don't get me wrong. Like, I really love Subway. I love getting a footlong sub and doing half and half, two different things, like half steak and cheese, half tuna. That's great time, dude. Half steak and cheese, half BMT, half steak and cheese, half chicken teriyaki. I like the steak and cheese. Half steak and cheese, half meatball marinara, dude. It's a good time. Subway's a good place, man. It feels like a buffet every time you're eating there. But, like, they've really ruined themselves for sure. And people hate on Subway.
Hello,
it's like
Internet.
Arby's, dude.
Welcome to Food Theory, where you can always eat fresh and feel good. But lately, it feels like eating fresh makes wallets feel less and less good. Some of you may remember the golden age of fast food. Dollar menus reigned supreme, combo meals packed a meaty punch, and at the pinnacle of bang for your buck was the $5 footlong. A filling, healthy, and affordable option for people.
4 for 4s, the 5 for 5 Arby's deal. Oh, man, those are the days, dude. I still only eat things that are like an extreme budget food. That's just the brain that I have. Like, I'm hitting up Dollar Trees, bro. I go to Sam's Club for the $2 slice of pizza and the drink combo. I'm out there going to, I just do it, bro. I just only eat budget things because I'm a cheapskate.
People on the go. It was a massive success, and now Subway is bringing it back. Kind of. We've talked about McDonald's and their ridiculous $18 Big Mac, but now Subway is in
$18 Big Mac? There's not a chance. That's got to be a overstatement.
Water with their prices, all thanks to their new and not improved version of the famous deal. Because instead of 5 buckaroonies for 12 inches, this time it was a super limited 2-week $6.99 footlong deal. Customers obviously drew the parallel and weren't happy. It's also not the first time Subway tries to recapture the glory of their old deal and the catchiest jingle ever.
I literally had that thought yesterday for some reason. Fitness in your mouth. Like, I don't know why I had that thought, but I literally popped in my head. I was putting stuff in the car, and I was thinking to myself, yeah, I'm into fitness in your mouth, bro.
Earlier this year, they tested out a $7.99 footlong in Los Angeles, which, even according to the CEO, was not successful enough for them. Hence, why the price changed this time around. But this deal isn't the only thing that's got customers feeling worse about Subway. The prices for the footlongs across the board have people up in arms about how much they're paying. Now, at first,
I open up the app and I start looking for something to eat on Subway. This happens to me like somewhat right because, like, once again, I like Subway, dude. I enjoy a sandwich from Subway. I think it's a fun place to get like a sandwich of different varieties. I went there a lot as a kid. I have fond memories of it. But like every time I see that the price of a footlong is $13.99, I just close it out. And I'm like, no, I'm not paying. I will not do it. I cannot bring myself to pay that much for a sandwich when I could go to I could go to Jimmy John's and get a sandwich for $8, or I could go to one of the good sandwich places like Jersey Mike's and get a sandwich for the same price as I can get it from Subway. Subway is like the low class, dude. Like Subway is the ghetto, the teenagers working there who don't want to be there. All of the stuff looks sweaty and there's kind of like this weird smell in the air. The bread is suspect at best and made out of yoga mats. Like that's what Subway is, man. It's supposed to be cheap because it's not that good. And now it's just not that good.
I didn't think there'd be much more to it than the ever-popular answer of corporate greed. But the deeper I looked, the more it became apparent that Subway is in real trouble. And the price increases for their cake bread sandwiches aren't just because they're trying to squeeze a few more dollars out of their customers. Their prices and their downfall isn't because of corporate greed. It's the exact opposite. In case you're not familiar with the second largest restaurant chain in the world, Subway's
They ran at a loss for so long. I'm calling it now that the $5 footlong never made the money, and they were running at a loss to get customer bases. And then after they got that customer base, they couldn't keep them because they had to increase the price of their
journey
sandwiches.
and rise to the top is wild. They've been around for 60 years, but it wasn't until the early 2000s that they started to explode in numbers. It took them 30 years from their grand opening to expand to 5,000 locations, but in the next 20, they upped them week numbers to 30,000. They were everywhere, every street corner, every Walmart.
It only cost like $20 to open a Subway or something, though, right? Like that was the whole cost.
Sure, they even set up permanent shop in some people's nightmares. They eclipsed every other fast food chain.
The old backroom Subway, dude. Many a night been spent in the backroom Subway.
Please. Burger King, more like Burger Peasant. McDonald's, doesn't have locations, whatever.
McDonald's sucks, bro. I'm saying it right now. I've never eaten at McDonald's and not been sick afterwards. Every single time my stomach is upset.
Point is, the name of the game
I don't
for
care
the
how
sandwich
cheap those
spot
cheeseburgers
was
are.
Aggressive expansion.
And one thing that sets the franchise apart from others in the space is the fact that Subway doesn't own a single one of their restaurants.
They're all
Every single
franchised,
location is owned and operated by a franchisee. The other thing that differs between them and, say, the Golden Arches is that Subway was historically pretty hands-off of their locations when it came to promotions and discounts for their customers. That is actually how and why the $5 footlong came to be.
Bro, they had these melts at one point that they had to put inside of these boxes that made them get grill marks on them or whatever. And I wanted one of those so bad because I love a tuna melt. So I was like, let me get one of those tuna melts all over the place. Dude, drove all over the city, every single place. We don't do that here. Sorry, we don't actually do that here. Every single place, dude. You know how frustrating that is when, you're being advertised on Instagram and every single one in your city doesn't have the thing? At least if you're going to hack my brain, allow me to get the item.
In 2003, one owner in none other than the 305 Miami, Florida, decided that they would be reducing the price of their footlong from $6 on the weekends to $5. And I know what you might be thinking, big whoop, $1. But within 2 weeks, his sales went up $10,000. He started bringing in over 4 times what the average Subway earned weekly. It went so well for him that he was able to expand his empire to 10 stores, each one carrying on the $5 footlong special. Over time, other owners took note and sales across the board for them skyrocketed. It took some time for the big dogs at the company to pay attention and decide to implement the special as an everyday promotion for customers. 5 years to be exact.
Wow,
in 2008, right before one of the worst economic recessions in modern history. And it was a
people were living off Subway during that, dude.
Massive success. In a time when customers were looking for value over pretty much anything else, paying $5 for a 12-inch sub was pretty much unbeatable as far as fast food goes. In just 1 year, Subway made $3.8 billion from the $5 footlong alone. That's more than Domino's made total. That's a
billion, dude. For some sandwiches, dude. What are they doing? Bro, I bet they haven't seen $3.8 billion since. I bet that their revenue every single year is 65 cents. That's how much they're actually making, dude. Nobody's buying Subway. Dude, I only use Subways as a public restroom nowadays, dude. That's all they're good for to me, dude. I'm not paying $15 for some turkey and veggies on bread. I can't do it. I will go to the store and buy the stuff for 3 sandwiches at that price, dog. There is a point that food hits cost-wise that I just don't care about convenience anymore. It's like I will buy deli turkey meat and eat it with my hands before I spend $15 on a Subway sandwich. It's not worth it. I don't care how good the sweet onion teriyaki is, brother.
When you realize that Subway would barely make money from each sub.
And when I do get a Subway sub, I pile those veggies on, dude. I got to get my money's worth.
But ingredients were cheap and people were coming out in droves to buy them. It was really a masterclass in marketing and is considered one of the most successful promotional campaigns of all time. Eventually, it was discontinued in 2014 because of rising costs of labor and food, but the memory and the jingle still lives on in everyone's hearts. And that's not a good thing for Subway because customers are calling them out for how the value of their meals have fallen. People are ganging up on Subway, sharing their expensive subs. One user on TikTok went viral by showing off her $33 receipt for just 2 footlongs. Unless that specific location likes to dip their subs in gold and diamonds, that seems a bit excessive for a place that advertised themselves as the best bang.
$10 to $11 is the absolute max that I would pay for like the most expensive sub there. Like I should be able to get a footlong sub at Subway for $9. No cap, dude. All the way through.
So let's deal with the elephant in the room first. When it comes to price nowadays, it's hard not to take inflation into account. And while that's definitely a factor that plays into you shelling out more money for a barely passable footlong, it doesn't fully explain why a sandwich that cost the company around $5 to $6 to make is suddenly going for over $20 in some places. The first major contributing factor towards the price is a unique challenge that Subway has in comparison to its competitors.
Theft.
Like McDonald's or Taco Bell. Customer control. At McDonald's, when you order your meal, you're not able to go into the kitchen and tell them exactly how many pickles or onions or lettuce you want
mayonnaise
on your burger, and they use that to their
more
advantage.
mayonnaise.
For example, in order to keep costs down and consistent, McDonald's makes sure that a standard quarter pounder with cheese comes with no more than 2 pickles unless a customer specifically asks for more, at which point they can be charged extra. At Subway, though, someone building their sandwich can easily just ask for more.
How are 2 pickles too few and 3 pickles are too many? Why is that?
Onion or
because I just get the
without
pickle the whole
extra
time?
cost to them, at least. It still ends up costing Subway every time someone asks for just a bit more. It's a small cost for every sandwich, but when you sell over 5,000 subs every minute, suddenly the cost for them goes up exponentially, and they have to make it up somehow. And while charging for a premium topping like avocado isn't an issue, customers would probably not appreciate being charged 50 cents when they ask for 4 more olives on their sub. They would definitely be called out for corporate greed in that case. And that's all the segue we need to discuss this point. In my research for this episode, I looked up what could be the causes of the rising prices we're seeing in fast food, and oh boy, if I had a nickel for every time I saw a comment saying, "The answer is corporate greed, you're welcome," I would probably have enough money.
Bro, I just get so sick of people falling back on this. Like, if it was just corporate greed, we could fix that problem. I guarantee it. Like, we could pass laws that would force these companies into like not charging more than XYZ, or we could just go on like strike as consumers, and we could boycott and not have, like, it would come down. That would just would. It would. They would want to bring in more customers. They would want to sell more product, but there is a reason. There is a reason because they're trying to make the bare minimum to pay their freaking bills, dude. Like, people just have no idea how expensive things actually are, especially in mass nowadays. The cost of buying things wholesale is not much more than buying them retail anymore, or not much less than buying them retail anymore.
For a whole foot long, or maybe just 6 inches with these prices. If that's you currently,
I'm a $6 6 inches guy, but I will not buy Subway, dude. I will go to Sheetz every single time. It's like $4 there.
Typing that out in the comments, I don't blame you. In so many of these cases, it really does boil down to greed. But Subway may actually be the exception here. Their increases are because they have no choice. They've painted themselves into a corner because they've been too generous to consumers. And it all started with the $5 footlong. I mentioned earlier that the name of the game for Subway has always been numbers. Numbers, numbers, numbers. It was an anywhere and everywhere approach. For the most part, it was a great opportunity for aspiring franchisees. Subway was one of the lowest costs of entry out of all the major fast food franchises. We talked about this in our secret 7-Eleven video, but opening a franchise is not cheap. If you're looking to open up your own McDonald's, you'd better be ready to shell out over $1 million, and sometimes upwards of $2 million. But Subway, on the other hand, can be a fraction of that, letting people start up.
Bro, I would love to own franchises at some point in my life. Like, I've often thought that, some of these YouTubers, when they get out there and they start making all this money, they open up like gyms or they open up like food company. Like, I want to run gas stations, bro. I love convenience stores so much and dollar stores. Those are the two things that I'm the most interested in. It's like making my own dollar store and making my own gas station, because I think it's one of the coolest things that you can do. I cannot imagine starting a fast food place, dude. The difficulty of getting people to actually put things together in a way that is decent is so hard, because they just don't pay you anything, bro. Like, I'm not gonna try if I'm at a McDonald's making $10 an hour, dog. Like, those burgers are not going to be done well, And if they are, they're going to be sitting there for a long time, because I'm only going to make them every so often.
Up their own store with a $250,000 investment.
You pay $10 an hour, you get $10 an hour worth of work.
They passed 30,000 locations, right around the time that the $5 footlong became mandated by the company. This was bad news for everybody. See, the problem with promotions like the $5 footlong is they're usually what are called loss leaders. Now, like the name suggests, loss leaders are usually sold at a loss for the company. They do this in the hopes that customers will come in and then spend money on more profitable items. The $5 promotion was a bit different because they did...
those Subway cookies. Did they used to have a raspberry cheesecake cookie, or am I crazy? I feel like I remember a raspberry cheesecake cookie that I used to love.
Sometimes make a tiny profit,
like
so
chocolate
it was
macadamia.
Technically a low-margin leader. Businesses depend on selling large quantities of low-margin leaders in order to actually turn a profit. And in Subway's case, it went great for a long time because people were flocking to the stores to spend money on the footlongs and other more profitable things like their cookies, drinks, and chips. But when suddenly locations were popping up right, left, up, down, and all around, thanks to how cheap it was to open shop, the amount of customers a single Subway would get started to be distributed among more and more locations.
Yeah, dude, there were 3 Subways in like a 4-mile stretch at one point where I lived. There was one in the middle of the town, one at the end of the town, and one at the other end of the town. And then if you drove another mile down the road to the next town, there was another one in a gas station right there. We have a place right now where there's a Walmart, and in the parking lot of that Walmart there's a gas station, and in both the Walmart and the gas station there's a Subway. Both of them, dude. Within 500 feet of each. It's crazy.
The individual stores with not selling nearly enough to cover the cost of the low-margin leader. And any hopes that they would profit were slashed by Subway. See, while Subway does have a low barrier to entry, it's a double-edged sword because they take some of the highest percentages in the industry when it comes to royalties, taking 12.5% of each location's weekly sales. That's half of the monthly gross sales, not profit,
it's good to
sales,
be Subway.
Meaning franchisees were struggling to stay afloat thanks to the discount that the higher-ups were forcing them to keep up. When stores closed at a rate that Subway started to not be okay with, they finally stopped the promotion. But that didn't stop them from doing everything possible to keep their reputation.
That's a Walmart Subway. You can tell by this is a Walmart sign right there. It's not the ice machine. I don't know what that is. Subway sliders. What? That sounds horrendous.
Being a value brand. They use their app to offer customers super attractive discounts and coupons to keep them coming back.
Yeah.
Great news for customers, not so much for franchisees. Of course, individual stores don't have to accept the coupons. Subway doesn't force them to. They would never dream of it. Instead, they'll just terminate their contract for no reason whatsoever because they can totally do that according to franchise contracts. Turns out, Subway has a bit of a history of
Sure would be a shame if something happened to your Subway business.
that franchisees follow what the company suggests. And for those that don't, well, they claim they're hurting the brand and cut ties. In order to not lose their livelihood, franchisees go along as much as they can. But as the cost of ingredients and labor keep going up, it gets harder. And Subway is making to look acceptance outright mandatory by the end of the year. So it's no surprise that since 2015, only a year after the $5 footlong got X'd, Subway has closed 7,000 locations. Despite that, Subway has a very apparent philosophy of, if it's broke, keep breaking it. Even though their franchisees are struggling to keep their head above water, they decided to make things worse by bringing the $6.99 footlong into play. Owners have no choice but to up their prices across the board because Subway is forcing them to play ball with deals that just aren't sustainable anymore. But because they've cemented themselves as the value brand in the eyes and memories of customers, they can't afford to let up on the crazy discounts. No. At the end of the day, while this doesn't mean it's the death of Subway altogether, it does mean we'll probably probably see more and more closures until eventually the sales of each individual store don't cannibalize one another.
Yeah.
The expansion of the...
Well, I think that Subway in general is sort of a failing business just because the quality of fast food has gone up so much over the years. Like, I mean, you know, a decade, maybe not a decade ago, let's say like a decade and a half ago when this $5 footlong deal really came out, like there weren't a whole lot of competitive Subway or sandwich shops in general. There were a lot of Subways, but you know, Quiznos wasn't really around hardly at all anymore. They were sort of being phased out at that point. There wasn't a Jimmy John's in my town. There wasn't a Firehouse Subs or a what's the other one? Jersey Mike's. There wasn't any of those things. Same thing with burgers. Like there wasn't a Five Guys around. There wasn't a Shake Shack or anything like that. Like there was nothing in this city but McDonald's and Wendy's, and then like sit down restaurants like Chili's and things. So you just didn't have this kind of thought of like what quality is supposed to be for the price that you're getting. And Subway can't go and change everything now because Subway does have a customer base. Like, I like Subway. If I want a Subway sandwich, the Subway sandwich is what I want. I don't want to go get a Jimmy John's sandwich. I don't want to go get a Jersey Mike's sandwich. And if they try to become those things, then they're just going to play themselves like crazy. But I almost feel like there's not a market for Subway to be able to sustain itself anymore, except for its diehard customer base. And like, they're just going to have to close a bunch of stores. Like you said, they're just going to have to go until they're not taking over their own sales constantly. But I don't know if it's going to work out or not. Like, the cost of doing business is so high nowadays that like I don't know if Subway will ever be able to recover. And if they do, the only thing that I can think of is they're gonna have to like reduce prices and find some way to like be the cheap sandwich shop again.
The last 20 years will lead to even more regression
I can buy a loaf
until
of
the
bread,
number
bro.
of locations goes back down to a point where the discounts that Subway forces on franchisees for the sake of the customer lead to profit again. So there you have it. Subway sandwiches reaching $20 isn't because of inflation or corporate greed. It all comes down to them wanting to be as cheap as possible for you. So cheap that the owners of the individual stores can't keep any money for themselves. We may be eating...
And like, I mean this, you know, like their food is kind of trash. I love it. I like the trash food, dude. Like, I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem with food being cheap and not the best quality. Like, I grew up in the hollers, dude. Like, you know, the dollar menu and hanging out outside and eating food sitting on the curb is like where I come from, dude. Eating out of gas stations, like eating out of Dollar Generals. Like, this is a thing that I grew up with. It doesn't bother me at all. I like that stuff, but it has to be valued at the right price. Like, I said it earlier, man. I go to the Dollar Tree, bro. You know, like, they just don't
fresh,
get it. They just don't
but
understand.
The owners definitely aren't feeling good. But hey, that's just a theory. A food theory.
Yeah,
Bon
dude.
appetit.
Dude, we've been clowning on these channels forever, and I love them so much, dude. Matt Pat, it was a genius when he came out with all this stuff, and he's really like created a brand that's been absolutely excellent. Like and subscribe to Food Theorist if you haven't done it already. That was the video, guys. Like, Subway, do you guys like it? Do you hate it? Also, Arby's is in the same category for me as food that is like heavily underrated, dude. Like, it's there. Like, you just have to know what to get from these stores, and it's on you if you don't know what to get from these stores. Just because you can't go there and get chicken nuggets the way you want to doesn't make it not a good store. Anyways, guys, that's the video. Hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you for watching. I'll see you on the next one. Be safe out there. Bye.